Ty has a question for you, Lombo.
Yeah, Lombo, just curious, what'd you think of the whole Matt Eberflus no timeout deal on Thanksgiving? And then there was also a report that came out today, I think from Dan McNeil, that said Jim Harbaugh was interested in the Bears job, or at least talking to them in January, and Kevin Warren just kind of nixed that. I don't know if that's the Ohio State-Michigan deal. But are you confident that the Bears are going to make the right hire this upcoming cycle? Because we've been led to believe that Kevin Warren is going to have like a massive hand in hiring their next head
Remember,
coach.
Kevin Warren was deciding the feng shui of the suites in the new stadium. On Hard Knocks.
Yes.
Watching it.
Yeah, well, you can do that, and you can run a team. Look, Kevin Warren's running the team. Let's make no mistake about that. Okay, you can sit there and say that somebody else is, he is, and that story that was written about Jim Harbaugh is completely true. Now, remember, Warren and Harbaugh, Warren being the commissioner of the Big Ten, and Harbaugh had some differences, and I think it let it spill over. But there were two teams that Jim Harbaugh would have loved to work for, I'm sure, last year. The Bears, who he played for and was the number one pick for, and then the Las Vegas Raiders, who he worked for in his first coaching job. Neither team decided to go after him. Why, I don't know. To me, if you're Kevin Warren, the object of this is to get the best coach available. And Jim Harbaugh would have been the best coach for your team. Now, you would have had to fire Eberflus. Let's go back to the end of the game. If you read Caleb Williams' comments after the game, you know, what usually happens here, he signaled for a double move. When after the sack, right, they should have called timeout. Everything happens when you save timeouts in the NFL on a 2-minute drill because if you get sacked, you need them. Because it takes too long for everybody to come back. Now, they wanted to run a stick route on the next play. Unfortunately, Caleb decided to change the play and throw a double move to Rome Odunze. You could see him signal it for here. He even said, look, later in my career, I probably would have tried to get the field goal, but I wanted to win the game for my teammates. This is really just hard. This is bad football, and it doesn't work. And ultimately, it falls in the hands of Eberflus, who got himself fired for this, and it falls in the hand of the quarterback, not recognizing you need to be in field position. I mean, even the Lions were stunned. They were completely stunned, and this, at the end of the game, is part of the issue, right? Situational football matters in December, and you just let an opportunity, and the quarterback even admitted that he would have done it. He did it. He changed the play, ran a double move. Now, that's on Eberflus, too, because if you would have called timeout before, right? If you'd have called timeout before, you come to the huddle, you come over to the sideline and say, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to stick route. We're going to throw the ball to Kmet. I got the field goal rush team. They're ready to go right on the field. We're going to kick the field goal, get this game in overtime. Here's what we're going to do. Let's go do it. But they didn't do that. They let that time keep just dwindling off. Remember, never look at the clock during the 2-minute drill. It's how many plays are left in the game. The clock is not numbers, it's plays. And so when you go from 34 to 0 and you don't get 4 or 5 plays in that time, or at least maybe 3 plays, you've just given away the game.
Yeah, and obviously, once the plan was we're going to try to run that play at 18 seconds, I think he said.
Yep.
And then we're going to try to call a timeout. Well, once I get to 17, 16, and we don't have a play yet, obviously, that's when, you see the panic coach run timeout move happen a lot during an NFL season. I think there's a chance Eberflus is about done with it all.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance Eberflus was just pretty checked out. That's what he looked like.
Yeah.
On the sideline, he looked like he was just checked out.
Understandable.
So I don't want to say a relief to get fired from the situation, but potentially Eberflus is, he knew what was inevitable, because it wasn't just that move. There's a lot of shit that has happened this year. 1-score games, decisions that have been made, yada, yada, yada. Caleb saying maybe later in my career I'll do it differently. It's like,
yikes.
Let's worry about this year.
Yeah, try to win now.
Yeah, let's not worry about if you're going to be a 10-year quarterback, which we hope you will.
You read that quote. That's not. You're going to have to bring somebody in that can coach him. And I think it's going to be. I think Thomas Brown's done a really good job the last couple of weeks of changing the offense. But they're going to have to do the defense. I think everybody says, well, Poles is definitely coming back, and Kevin Warren made it very clear. But this team is anti-Chicago. This team is built outside in, not inside out. You play in the Windy City, you got to be really good in the offensive defensive lines. They're not. You can't run Eberflus's scheme without great defensive linemen. We see it in San Francisco, same type of scheme. As good as San Francisco is, they can't win games because they don't have dominant defensive line, especially when Bosa's not in there. So it's a little bit of the Chicago problem isn't just coaching. It's a little bit of how the team was built as well.
Man, if let's say I was to end up being a coach or a GM somewhere.
Sure.
That O-line and D-line is right where you head.
O-line,
that is legitimately, that is the first, I think that is the first stop for any.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody says you need a quarterback. Sure. Doesn't matter who the hell your quarterback is if you don't have O-line in front of him. I legitimately, like you talk about Jim Harbaugh whenever he goes out to the Chargers, and he just lets the skill guys that are worth a lot of money go. And who's he hang on to? Well, the older, expensive guys that are on the O-line or the D-line. Like that is who he, and then they use their top 10 pick for offensive linemen. And then they go in again. It's like, Jim Harbaugh immediately, well, he has a quarterback already in just Herbert, but he's like, this is where I'm focusing on. This is where we're going to be great. Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni's big takeaway about football because of his dad, and he told Howie, is what?
O-line, D-line, Howie, O-line, D-line.
So him in Philadelphia,
all that matters.
Legitimately, it is college ball, NFL ball,
it's
high
not
school.
going to change. But what happens at the draft is we get all these draft guys, and we got Mel over there sitting there too. It's all they talk about are receivers. They got 27 receivers going in the first. Got to have a receiver. I mean, that's Chicago's problem. They got Keenan Allen paying $22 million. They trade for DJ Moore. They draft Rome Odunze. I mean, look, it's great, but what wins games? The Eagles got Jalen Carter dumped in their lap. I mean, to find a 3 technique in the National Football League is like trying to hunt for dinosaurs. You can't find them. It's impossible.
Now there's a report that Jim Harbaugh wanted the gig, and Kevin Warren basically said, "I got my own guys. Thanks. We'll figure this entire thing out. We got our own shit. Move along." Now, have you seen what Jim Harbaugh has done with the Los Angeles Chargers? You're talking about changing the entire culture. You're talking about changing the entire mindset. You're talking about building a fan base back into believing that they can actually go and win, because not only do they have the talent, but they got the team that isn't soft. It's a tough team. Mm-hmm. It's a together team. Jim Harbaugh's latest move? Lunch pails for all the boys in the locker room.
Hell yeah.
Video was released of Cameron Dicker, I do believe the kicker for the Chargers, showcasing his lunch pail to a cell phone, and on there is a bunch of Jim Harbaugh's words. It's a little bit of encouragement. It's a little bit of excitement, and I believe it's just one message when Jim Harbaugh's not around the boys to be like, "Hey, this is the type of guys we are," and I'm thankful for it. AJ, when you talk about a leader of men in the NFL, everything that Jim Harbaugh has done, and I think you can put MC/DC in the same exact way, do it their own way, have great success much quicker than MC/DC had it, but have the entire team bought in. It's a beautiful thing, and I love this idea here, because this is him still coaching. This isn't just a gift. This is him still coaching, finding a different way to deliver his message, Age.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I think we take it for granted when someone does come in and they turn a team around like this. Like MC/DC took a little bit longer than what Harbaugh is doing. But look around, like, it's not easy. There's not many people doing it at a high level on a consistent basis, especially when you come in straight from college and like he's doing, seems to have everyone buy in. But if you look around, like, what do you think, for me at least, the common denominator, as people used to say in this situation, is that these guys are authentic. They feel like they're being real. They're not. There's so many coaches, I think, that they get the head gig for the first time. They're like, "Oh man, I don't want to lose this thing, so I'm gonna change who I am. I'm gonna try to be what I think I should be." And these guys feel like, hey, they trust in the process and what they believe in, and they're gonna ride it.
And I think who they are is natural coaches, natural teachers, natural leaders.
Teachers, yeah, they're like teachers. Like, coaches are absolutely teachers, and these guys absolutely know how to do that, know how to get the point across to people every single day.
And their messaging, like, that was a message to him, to his team. A lunch pail as a gift. It's like
hard hat.
That's a message.
Lunch pail.
Yeah, bingo. That's exactly what that is.
Put your work boots on.
Whenever you watch guys like that, what are your thoughts as a coach for 36 years?
Yeah, I mean, John and Jim grew up in a football. They grew up on the sideline. They grew up in the locker room. They grew up watching their dad do the same stuff.
Different coaches, though, right? Jim and John?
Different approach. I mean, they're at the opposite end. I mean, yeah, personality, looks,
messaging,
the whole deal. But same thing, though. You go into building John's deal when I went with him in 2008, Harbaugh, was, build a bully. That we were going to be in Baltimore. We were going to build a bully. So it's the same mindset, same messaging, same culture. It's about tough. It's about rolling up your sleeves. It's about going to work. I mean, I love this, and it's to Lombo's point. He says we got all these offensive guys, these head coaches that are offensive guys that are play callers, and they're so wrapped up in scheming and drawing plays and putting game plans together. Just on one side of the ball, that you're the CEO of the entire team. Okay, offense, defense, special teams. So guys like Jim, guys like John, that you're going to oversee stuff, but you got time to sit back and say, okay, my message, our culture, our identity, the process, our philosophy, that doesn't change. I got to find different ways to keep getting this message across. Here comes the hard hat. Here comes the lunch pail.
Here comes the grit chip.
Here comes the grit chip.
Yeah.
You know, and so those guys that are the head coach and they overseeing everything, they're sitting back and going, okay, we just won another game. We're in a stretch run. We're in the fourth quarter of the season. It's December football. It's January football. What's the next thing I can do? Because I used to sit there and try to brainstorm and had guys try to talk to about, okay, themes. What's the thing? So we tried to keep teaching the same message, just a different way to deliver it, right?
Yep.
Different way to say it, but not all another sign, another this, another quote or whatever. It was still team. It was still grit. It was still, run the ball, stop the.
I like when a team's bought in like that. And those are the right things to be bought into. The Chargers obviously are. And Derwin James, after his game-winning pick, he was trying to give that ball to Mentor and Jim Harbaugh. And he actually said, I love you guys. Here, this is for you. And they're like, nah, it's your ball. There was a hug on the field. They're all the way in. That Chargers team is dangerous.